Hey everyone, this episode of Shop Tips is going to be about exhaust. And what I'm going to do is make myself a very simple little catback exhaust for my truck. Catback means from the catalytic converter on back, if you didn't know that. And I'm using a flex joint because I want to get rid of the factory one, which I'll show you later. I'm using a freer flowing muffler, and I'm using a larger diameter tube because the whole goal with an aftermarket exhaust system is to increase flow and decrease the pressure in your exhaust system. So anyway, what I'm going to start is I'm going to weld the flex coupler to the muffler, and you could just butt weld it like this, but it wouldn't be very strong. So what I'm going to do is cut a piece of metal to go inside there. I'm starting out with a piece of pipe that I cut that's long enough to go all the way back to here and then go all the way into this and still leave me enough room to weld. Now I've done it with a chop saw, as you can see, and it left quite an edge. So what I'm going to do is deburr it. I'm going to do the outside on my bench grinder, and then I'm going to use a round file on the inside to clean that up. Okay, I've got that piece just stuck in there, and then I know it fits in here, and as you can see, that leaves me enough room to weld. An important thing is to put in place a lot of your exhaust parts, mark them, and then weld it. Things like this, where it doesn't matter which way it's on, I can do beforehand, but the tailpipe going out, I'm going to just prefab all that and not weld it in solid, and then I'll make sure it fits, put lines on it. For example, if I wanted to have this on the truck and I had it all fabbed up and I wanted to make indicator marks of where I needed to go, I could put two little marks like that and line them up, and then I'd know what angle things need to go when I pull it off the truck. Then I can stick them back together just like the marks say and then weld it. Anyway, like I said, this doesn't really matter which way it goes on, so I'm just going to go ahead and weld those together, but I need to remove that paint with an angle grinder first. Alright, now that we've got those welded together, I can clean off the other side and weld a section of pipe onto it. What I'm going to do is go hold it underneath the truck, just up where I'm going to put it at, and see about what length I need. Another method I like to use instead of an angle grinder is to just take a MAP gas torch and then heat the end until it blisters a little bit, and then you just take a wire brush to it. That also cleans it off really nice. I noticed when I was holding all the parts up underneath the truck, mocking everything up to see what I was going to need, I'm going to need about a 60-degree angle to get around my frame and to get the kind of angle I want on the pipe. So what I did was I cut a 15-degree angle on these two pieces. They're straight on the other ends, and then I cut this piece at 30 degrees. So a 15, a 15, a 15, and a 15 makes a 60-degree turn. And then I'm just going to go ahead and weld that together. You can see I've got it tacked together right now. I'm going to go ahead and weld that together, and then there's my turn. And you can get pre-bent elbows, but they tend to have quite a sweep. So I'm doing this in, hardly any space at all. Now I've done all this with a MIG welder, and as you can see, it's kind of, well, it's not the greatest, but what you do is you just squeeze the trigger, just do a little puddle at a time and go all the way around. A TIG welder would make it look a lot nicer, but it's a 14-year-old truck on its second engine, so I'm not too worried about what it looks like underneath. As long as it's solid and as long as it's sealed, that's all that matters. So now we're going to take the factory exhaust out. Alright, this is the joint that we're going to be eliminating, and as you can see, it's basically rusted on. There's not much hope of getting this bolt out. The other thing is the little donut in here that is the gasket between the catalytic converter and the rest of the exhaust. That donut leaks. So between the bad bolts and the bad donut, I'm just going to cut it out, and we're going to weld right to this piece, which is a catalytic converter exit. And that flex coupler that I showed you will be installed in place of that. And there it is. A little bit closer look at that now that it's out from under the truck. So now we're going to go ahead and hold the new piece up underneath there, and then I'm going to support it with some jack stands. Okay, I've got it hanging in there, but it's not quite straight, so I'm going to make sure I got it level. Use one of the factory exhaust hanger locations with a piece of rod stuck through it to hold it. And then after that, I'm gonna get a piece to fit in there. And I've made a mark on the back where the tailpipe's gonna go, so I can cut that and tack weld everything together and see how it looks. A really handy tool to have when you do this sort of thing is a pipe clamp like that. As you can see, I've got it in there. Got the tailpipe sticking out there. And I held this up. I made a mark here and 2 marks there so I know what angle to weld it on at. And then I made kind of a rough outline trying to hold the pen up against the truck of where I want to cut it off at. So I'm going to cut it here first and then cut it back as necessary to make it look good. So I'm going to go ahead and tack weld it all together now. A quick note while it's still out from underneath the truck, I drilled a 1/16 inch hole right there. That's to let water out of the muffler, because when you burn gasoline, one of the byproducts is actually water vapor, so you need a place for it to escape if your exhaust flow is going to go up, because it's going to tend to pool in a low spot of your exhaust. Alright, here's the system on the truck, supported by jack stands. And I've got enough clearance up top, and I've got enough clearance for the this cross brace here. So I'm going to go ahead and weld everything in on there that I can outside the vehicle, and then the only thing I should have to weld in the vehicle, which there's a lot of in and out when you're building an exhaust system, I'll have to weld the hanger on the back in place. I'll have to do this weld in place, but other than that, we're ready to go. Alright, exhaust system finished and hung.